everyone, and welcome back to Talk Time Tuesdays with the Whole Parenting. My name is Louise. I am a mom and I am also a family and child development consultant with a special focus on the psychodynamics of human development. And before we go any further, I would really like to invite you to subscribe to our channel and to like. Also, I would like to invite you to share your experiences and your knowledge in the comment section below on the subject that we're discussing. Now, today I'd like to continue the conversation that we started a few weeks ago about parenting triggers. And today what I want to speak about in particular is power struggles and how they relate to parenting triggers. Just before I go ahead, if you haven't yet seen the previous videos on parenting triggers, I'd like to invite you to go have a look at them before you look at this one, because it will inform this video in a different way if you do. Whenever you have a parenting trigger, it's important that you stop and you check yourself and you bring awareness to the trigger, to what is happening within you. And something that's really important, and I want to stress here, is that before you go ahead to do anything else, once you've recognized you've been triggered, you need to show yourself some kindness. Show yourself some benevolence. And this is not just talking airy-fairy stuff. What the kindness that you will show yourself in that moment will do is that it will speak to that wounded child in you, that wounded part of you, and say to the child or young person, you're no longer in that situation. So it's not necessary for you to respond in that way. Remember, our triggers are often a defense mechanism. So it's no longer necessary for us to respond in the present moment in the way that we're feeling naturally drawn to respond to based on our triggers, because we are no longer in that dangerous or damaging situation. If when you're triggered by your child, what you feel like doing in that moment is yelling and shouting, you need to observe that, first of all, but you also need to tell yourself that it's no longer necessary to scream and shout and yell. Particularly, it's not necessary to do that with your child. The fight that you have is not with your child. The person who hurt you was not your child. So you do not need to respond in this way. What you need to do is rewrite the code in your brain by responding in this way every time that you are triggered by your child. And eventually it will stick. Now, when you're triggered, you may not know what the trigger is, you may not know what the wound is, but if we are mindful enough and conscious enough, we will know when we're responding to something that has nothing to do with the present. You can choose to respond differently. I know it's easier said than done, but with practice it will work. Now, it's easy to get into a power struggle with our kids. If your trigger is about disrespect or not being heard, a 2-year-old or 3-year-old saying no to you can feel very much like that child is disrespecting you and can trigger that wound of disrespect within you. And it's easy to forget that a 3-year-old or a 2-year-old is going through a developmental milestone where they need to exercise their will to say no and to say yes, and where they learn how to use their will and their power. As an adult, you don't really want to be caught standing, having a struggle, fighting with a child who is doing what they're supposed to be doing naturally, developmentally. You want to get out of that power struggle and instead start solving the problem. Now think of it. If you run out of food, you wouldn't stand there furious with your pantry because your pantry forgot to tell you that you were running out of food. What you would do is you would go out and get some more food. You would go into problem solving. Now, it's the same thing with your children. You want to problem solve what is happening in the given moment that you are having a trigger. You may need to problem solve for yourself, or you may need to problem solve because it's something that's going on with your child in that moment. So you kindly explain to your child why it's necessary to wear shoes, or why it's necessary to wear shoes on a cold and a rainy day. Now the thing is, the more power you exert on your child and the more you try to control your children, the less powerful they feel. Now, the need for feeling power and control is a natural developmental need that all human beings have. And if we give our children some sense of control, it lessens their need to want to fight for the power and control, fight us for the power and control. So instead, give them choices that still fulfill your goal. For example, with a child who refuses to wear shoes, you begin by asking, which shoe would you like to wear today, honey? And while asking them that question, you give them two controlled choices. So two appropriate pairs of shoes. Well, you won't give them sandals and wellies on a rainy day. You'll give them, appropriate shoes, maybe sneakers, trainers, or wellies on a rainy day. Giving them choices will get them to feel some sense of power and control, while at the same time getting them to do exactly what you want them to do, but without the power struggle. So because the need to feel power and control is a natural one that we all have, children and adults alike, when a child feels powerless, they will try to get their control back in some way or another. So they may start off by whining, whinging, complaining a lot. They may try to get their power back by throwing a tantrum. They may try to get their power back, in older children particularly, by being defiant, by talking back. And for some children, they may not do it to your face, but will secretly exert that power and control when you are not looking. And this is far more dangerous. Now, what I want you to remember is that our purpose as parents is not to control our children. I think we often get that very wrong. Our purpose as parents is to teach our children, to coach them almost, so that they can become good people and so that they can succeed in this life and be happy, well-rounded human beings. When we begin to think that we must control our children, it is a slippery slope to developing abusive tendencies, whether it's physically abusive or emotionally abusive. We can control ourselves and we can control our responses. We can control the environment that we are in and the environment that our children are in. We can control what we teach our children, and we can do this through our own examples and through the environment that we expose them to. So control what you can. So in conclusion, I want to remind you to be kind to yourself in a trigger. Don't get locked into power struggles with your children, and safely and sensibly provide your child or your children with some sense of power and control. Thank you for joining us today. I hope that this short discussion and continuation on parenting triggers was useful for you. If you found it useful and interesting, please do share it with someone else. Also like and share your experiences in the comment section below, or your knowledge. Also, do remember to subscribe to this channel and to hit the notification bell. Have a lovely week and see you next Tuesday.